I'm Broc Glover here from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City, where we're getting ready for the 16th round of the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship and Dunlop Motorcycle Tires Track Walk. And each week, for those who follow, I've been having a co-host who's an ex-pro rider, AMA pro rider, but this week I'm getting a little off. Last week we went with Tristan Lane, a privateer's angle. This week I'm going with a dad, but not just any dad. Somebody I've known since the 1980s, John Tomac, and Eli's father. So we're gonna see what his perspective is on the track. Because John, you come out pretty much every race. I see you out here on the track walks with Eli. You've been really Eli's main and only coach for his whole career. So we want to hear what you have to say. And being here in the home state of Colorado, it's got to be exciting for you.
Yeah, it's always a good time here in Denver, and being Colorado people. It's a big deal for the locals to come out and see Eli race. So
that's awesome.
We don't have a lot of riders in Colorado, but we have some good ones. So.
Well, we just finished with the Privateer Championship, and we're going to do the track walk on Friday because I like the way we can see what's going on the track. There's been bikes on the track. It's not perfectly smooth. We're going to start heading down this starting line right here. So Denver, it's not really one of these long historic cities that's had a lot of Supercross races. This is only the 4th Supercross ever in Colorado. And in 1996 at the old Mile High Stadium, Jeremy McGrath won. By any chance, were you here in that race?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay. So where you're living right now in the same area of Eli, you're on the other side by Durango, Colorado. So, in Cortez. And right now you're pretty much become a rancher. Do you ever get your leg over a dirt bike anymore?
A couple years ago, but I had an issue with a compressed disc. I kind of put the brakes on my dirt biking for a little while.
Nice.
Try to get some mountain biking in still.
Yeah, so we have this race here. Again, I mentioned it's the 16th, next to last penultimate round of the series, but it's also the same situation for the 250 SX West. So that championship technically has not been decided, where we have Jet Lawrence. Good save, by the way. So Derek was backing up into the tough block, and I should have warned him. Sorry about that. So Jet Lawrence, who is leading the championship, he just needs I believe it's a 10th place finish for the championship. So most likely he'll be going into what we call that protect mode. Your son Eli, he has not won a race in 3 rounds, but he's got that cushion on Chase Sexton. With Cooper Webb's injury, it gave Eli a little more breathing room. So I don't want to, Chase rode phenomenally last week in Nashville, no question about it. But Eli, there's a championship on the line. I mean, do you guys talk about that? It's you got to be able to win the war, not worry so much about the little battle.
Yeah, when you're down to the last 3 rounds, and I figured it would come down to the last 3 rounds with Cooper and Eli. And Chase has been, coming kind of in and out, getting a little bit close and then not. But with 5-6 rounds to go, I was like, yeah, it's probably going to come down to the last 3 rounds between Cooper and Eli. And then, last week was pretty dramatic with Cooper kind of coming out of the race. So, for Eli now, he's got, I think, 18 points, and it's not really enough to just say I'm going to take risk and try to win some events. So he has to manage these last 2 races. If there's opportunity for a win, I think, obviously he would go for it, but not to the extent that it could, where you're going to throw away. The last thing you want to do is throw away 20 points, and that was the same way last weekend. He was out front, Chase ran him down, and track was sketchy, and it's just not worth it. You work so long and so hard to get yourself in these positions for championships, and when it comes time to seal the deal at the end, you priority 1 is sealing the deal.
Yeah, that championship means a lot more than just 1 race or 2 races. There's no question about that. So this particular start, we come down here, the dirt, a little later on, we're going to try to catch up with Dirtworks Alex Gillespie, and you can turn around, Derek, if you'll focus right here, you'll see something here, and this is not right here. Oh, speaking of the devil, we've got him right here. I'm going to have him. Alex, I'm looking here. Being a golfer, I was thinking that maybe this is a sand bunker or something. So tell us what these piles of sand are here at Empower Field here in Denver.
Yeah, so if you guys remember the Supercross we had last year here in Denver, it was a day race, and the track got super hard, got baked in the sun. We have some of the hardest dirt here. So this year it's going to be a night race. which is definitely going to help us lock in the moisture into the track for our gate drop. But we got a couple loads of sand, and we've been working the sand in all week. When we built the track with the loaders, we would sprinkle a little sand in, the dozer would shape it, and then we would sprinkle a little more sand in before we back drag it. So I think for press today, it might have been a little on the sketchy side, but I think by the time we work it in again now and then back drag it again and water it, I think it'll actually create like a nice, hopefully a little bit of a loamier top coat where it's not just cement.
Well, I usually am the one that kind of tells you exactly what the track measures out, because the AMA does measure the track out, and it's 1,635 feet. It's about 30-some feet shorter than the next shortest track. So this is our shortest circuit that we've raced so far. Indianapolis was the second shortest. But in that being the case here, with this track being as small, you mentioned that the floor of this stadium gives you unique, challenges.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily it's a narrow stadium because it is wide in the middle, but it's a big egg shape. So since we have straight rhythm lanes, we're going from the corners. So there's a lot of extra space on the 50-yard lines. But what it does is it smushes the lanes in, and then when it makes the starting gate really tight. So if you go stand on the inside starting gate or the outside starting gate and look up, the pinch is probably the tightest it's been all year, really, at this venue.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Alex Gillespie from Dirtworks, giving us the lowdown, all the challenges that you guys face. Done a great job all year long, because these we've had some trying conditions, no question about it. So thanks, Alex. Okay, so yeah, he talks about the shape right here. So here we are coming into this first corner, John, and I mean, do you guys talk, like you and Eli? I see you often talk about which gate you want to be, and especially if he's trying to go for the whole shot or he's going defensive. But Eli's starts this year have been phenomenal. I mean, is it horsepower, or is there some technique that you guys have been working on that's made Eli's starts improve so much?
Well, his bike is incredible now for starting on. So it's as an amateur, he was a really good starter, and then he was kind of hit and miss a little bit when he was on Hondas for a while, and then he struggled a bit on the Kawasaki. But a lot of it is how the clutch is set up, how the rider wants the clutch set up, and he's a clutch rider. There aren't very many of those left, but he wants a certain feel, and if he can get the right feel and get the power right, it works, and you've seen it. It's completely a different guy on his start averages for the last, 2 seasons.
Yeah, his start averages this year have been phenomenal. So coming through this left-hander, last week we had a right-hander, didn't seem to create any issues, to be honest with you. I personally am not, I really don't think a left and a right makes much difference. But coming through this left right here, nice little roll on here. Depending if you're coming out of the first corner, we saw press day, they just came straight across. But after press day, that's not the line they're going to do. They're going to be actually using a very, very tight corner that we saw in the Privateers Championship race. And that was inside rolling this first one. And then the top level guys in the press day were either hitting this table and actually clearing the single out here, or some were just downsiding, jumping up on to the table, hitting the knob, singling out, and then doing a triple or a triple on off. So the track, to me, I remember the obstacles. We have 10 whoops on the other side. We have 11 obstacles on this lane. On the opposite lane over there, there's 12. So it goes sequential, 10, 11, 12. So the riders really have a lot of options here. And when you saw what you saw in press day, did you figure one line was faster here, or what was your thoughts?
Well, you have to decide in that turn if you're going to try to go onto that table or not, and it's not really a standard 3 going onto the table. It's one of those little rollers that's like a 2-footer. So you have to swing wide to get on and off the table, and that's the fastest line is on off to here, and then a 3 and then a 4.
Right.
But depending on what you do in that turn behind us, it's going to dictate what happens down here.
Yep, and you can go off rhythm also. So
yes,
I do like what I saw, in including in press day and obviously in the Privateer Championship race that we just saw run, that there were a lot of options. Alex Gillespie at Dirtworks was talking about how some of these transitions, they actually like when there's a lot of traffic on the track. they actually like a lot of laps put in, press day, and now that race that we just saw. This allows them to actually work the track in where it's soft. They get to pack it in a little further, and the track ends up being a better racing surface. So you can see that big rut there. There were some guys, as we call kind of a quad here. The table that's single, the downside would be one, and then the obstacle in the corner. And a lot of the top guys, I saw Eli, I saw Chase, you know, quite a few even privateer level riders like Justin Starling, who's in the press day rides. He was also just quadding this into the corner. So that looked pretty darn fast. If not, it's the on off. So did you take any times?
Yeah, and the quad into this corner was faster.
Okay.
And sometimes it just kind of depends on where that on-off is positioned on the track and what comes after it. Because sometimes the squirt you get on and off is really beneficial on the stopwatch.
Yes.
And sometimes it's faster to go on-off than it is to do a big quad. And people think, oh, the quads are the way to go, but they're not always the way to go.
And also that squirt you were mentioning, John, the squirt kind of allows you sometimes, especially if you're right alongside or just off of somebody, that little squirt gets you that front wheel inside, and you can make a little pass here too is another option, huh?
Yeah, and then a lot of times too on an obstacle like this, the on-off versus the quad, it affects how your bike is sitting when you enter this turn also. Like if you want your bike to really get down into the travel, the quad would be the better way to go, because you can get more, you know, you get deeper into your travel, into the turn. Sometimes you want that, maybe sometimes you don't. You know, that's another thing that, that's a little bit more advanced than most people might think about, but how the last jump you take going into a turn affects how your bike handles or your chassis and how the bike steers.
Absolutely. So, you know, we talk about, you know, like, how does John Tomac know this? Well, in 1991, so we have a little bit of a history. In 1988, I believe it was, you were just in your prime of your mountain bike career, and you went on to win the World Cross Country Championship. You're all in 1991. You're in the Mountain Biking Hall of Fame, and then you went on to ride Loretta Lynn's. In 2001, you won the BC Championship at Loretta Lynn. So in 1988, I believe we were down at JT Racing together down in San Diego. You were doing mountain bike clothing photo shoot.
Yeah.
I was doing motocross photo shoot. We get to chatting, and I somehow convince you to go ride a dirt bike. And that was one of your first times you'd ever been on a dirt bike. And you and I went riding together in 1988. You remember that?
Yeah. I started riding about that time. You know, for me, it was just something fun to do. And I grew up as a BMX kid, so you know, obviously I was a motocross fan at the same time, and then got into mountain biking, and then started riding, you know, moto as a hobby. And then when Eli started riding, I just kept riding more and more with him, and that's when I got into the Loretta's thing. And he was on a 50 and 60. We were just going and doing races together.
And so you won the Loretta Lynn's championship before Eli.
Before he did, yeah.
He tries to rub it in that you did yours in a 3 moto without winning a moto, but hey, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
It doesn't matter. Loretta Lynn's, it's all about being consistent and having the 3 best motos, and you were the guy in the BC championship there. It was over 30 or over 35, whatever it
30
was.
plus B,
30 plus BC. Oh man, that's a great title. Can't complain. So coming out of this is the 12. So we have the 10 whoops, 11 over there, and we got 12 because this one has one extra jump at the end of the straightaway. So a lot of riders were coming out of this corner, and the fastest guys were able to play with downsiding the table. Some other guys just on-off seem to be the most consistent. But ironically, when you're on-off, what it does is it sets you up. If you'll turn around here, Derek, and show this, you're climbing up that. Now you're on the 5-footer. If you want to turn around and get a good view of this thing right here, you can see the tractors. The 5-footer is what the 450 guys always try to avoid. They're trying to avoid it because it throws them high. But we are almost at 6,000 feet, and being a mile high in elevation, these bikes don't have a lot of pop. And even the 250s, you could visually see they don't have the grunt. A lot of guys go up a tooth, you know, put a bigger back sprocket on, maybe 2. I know Alex mentioned, we talked about the track design. They sometimes give a little bit more distance between the runs to the big jumps. This is the only circuit that I know of this year that has no triple jump.
Yep.
They just have one good sized double on the other side. So they are, when they design the track, they do take into consideration that we are at elevation and the bikes don't have the horsepower. So a lot of the guys were trying to use the 5-footer to get this triple, and Derek, if you'll turn around, you'll see the other 5-footer, which is the real tall one coming up here. Hit this triple. But the quickest guys, and I saw Eli doing it, they're playing with the rhythm section here. Did you have a feeling which one was faster?
Yeah, I think the over table, and then a 3 to here, and then a 3 to off of this, and then a 3 all the way to the turn.
Wow.
It's probably going to be the race line. You want to avoid the 5-footers at all costs, and that one does keep you out. But you can see the guys were a little hesitant today because it was so soft and it was not like a normal surface. So they're going to be a little bit careful. Tomorrow, like Dirtwork said, when they work it all in, it'll get more consistent and they'll have a higher level of comfort.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So, and again, I mentioned because Chase, Eli, obviously, were both in press day, the 2 championship contenders. They were the guys missing the 5-footers, but it took a little bit of punch. It took skill. It took, factory level tuning, whatever it is. Those guys would win on stock bikes, but the point is, or come close to it. But the point is, they were avoiding the tall ones. The privateer guys, most of them were using those 5-footers, and these guys are guys that are consistently making the main events, but they were using those tall 5-footers to get their triple. So we're in a landing right now, as you can see, some case marks here and there, but landing on the second 5-foot, and then just a clean, simple double into the inside there. But John, you're talking about when they were going off rhythm, they were actually hitting this third to last, clearing all the way into the corner as a triple. So it looked fast, and again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, and if you can get triple and still get the inside, that's a big one also for just cutting track off, but still getting the triple on the obstacle.
Yeah, because a lot of people, if you'll turn around here for a second, Derek, you'll show you what we're talking about. You can see that we're doing the landing actually right where your feet are standing, Derek, right there. You can see there's a big hole developed right here, and a little bit of the sand right here is this is where the guys were coming down, but they're not able to do what John was just mentioning, able to get slowed down on the back side of this corner. This here is on off. But you can see the ruts that developed here. And it is interesting, Alex was telling us earlier how much sand they've mixed in. This will all get mixed in, but it's not completely blended yet. So.
Yeah, this does not look like a West Coast hard pack track, but I think
not.
it'll go back that direction a little bit tomorrow. Probably not to full blue groove, but I think it's going to actually mix really nicely. And since we're racing in the evening, I think we'll keep decent moisture in the track. So.
Yeah, last year was a lot of fun. I got to experience a little bit of the Tomac Championship celebration with you and your wife, Kathy. It was a lot of fun. Everybody, it was nice to see for Eli be able to kind of let your hair down and just be himself. Championship pressure's over, and it was like, there were so many of friends and family and fans of the Tomacs here. You had family here. Everybody had family here. It was really nice. It was the day race, so the evening became a big championship celebration. And but here, with only 18 on the line, I think Eli would have to win. Chase would have to slip all the way back to a 5th for Eli to be able to experience that second year in a row here in Denver. But again, we talked about it earlier. Championship management is the maturity that a rider like Eli, and of legendary status already, for sure Hall of Famer, he understands at this point it's not all about every single little tiny race. It's about the whole 17-round series. And right now, with all the injuries we had last week, and as mentioned, track was so sketchy in Nashville. Unfortunately, caught out Justin Barsha, caught out Cooper Webb, and some other riders that got hurt, and some privateers and things. So you don't want to do that here. You want to make sure. So out of this section on off, and either a double or into the triple, did you have a feeling here? Because during the press day, they didn't even get to really ride.
Yeah, they had a blocked here, so we don't really know how that's going to play out. But sometimes the end of this lane will dictate a little bit what you do in that 90 before it. So you may want to go out and get the on-off, and then maybe you could even triple on the outside here and catch this berm, because sometimes in the 90s they have berms. Sometimes they have what we call a curb berm, which is just a little one. And then like last week, they didn't put anything in the 90s, and nobody ever went outside. So
yeah, that's true. They were kind of flat. So this here, you can see here, this is not, like you said, this doesn't seem like a West Coast track. It's got a lot of sand mixed in this corner, so it's nice to see. They're going to keep some moisture in this. A little hard pack going up, and this is typically what you see if you want to turn around here, Dirk, and point this, but this is what looks to be the face of a triple, but it's a little lower. And on the other side, it's only about, instead of 65, it looks to me like it's possibly about 50. So, you know, Alex mentioned only track without having a triple jump on it this year so far, and they gave a little bit more run. So if we can look from here, as a rider, you come over this, you're much higher, bird's eye view, and that's where you're going to get set up and get your visual on what you're really, one of the biggest separators on this track. And right there, you've got 10 solid hard whoops in front of us. They haven't broke, you know, we can go through them, but they didn't break down much during the privateer event. So I'm hoping they're going to hold up well. Looks like they're holding up fairly well right now. So.
Yeah, usually if they survive the first really group of riding or group of riders, you know, with a couple sessions, they'll hang in there and they'll stay hard, and these are going to stay hard. And they're fairly fast. If they're faster, a lot of times they tend to last a little longer also. Because the guys kind of get on top of them a little more, and they're not digging in with their rear tires as much.
Pre-bump, this is kind of mellow here, gets them up on top, and you see they're going to skim through. I'm sure tomorrow when the elite guys, like your son and Jay Sexton, these guys are going to be blitzing these things like nobody's business, huh? You see Jet Lawrence rip through here, and I think we're going to be all skip. There's no jumping going to be going on here tomorrow.
No, it's just too fast and they're too hard. But sometimes on these faces though, like when they're hard pack, this is what you don't want to hit, is an edge that's angled like that. And that's where you see the guys, the back of their bike kick sideways. And if it kicks sideways and it clears up over a whoop without correction, that's when they get the big high side crashes.
Well, you just pointed out a little bit of a start of what we call edging or cupping out. But you can see right here with some of the guys, the tires are not going exactly towards the corner, so you can tell they're stepping out a bit. Working right here around the corner. I see Corey in there working hard on this 180 here, around the Rocky Mountain 180, and then right into the face of this beast. Face of this straight up and down. Yeah, it's a little backflip. Come on, let's see, right here. There we go, brother. Woo! That was bad, all right. That's the so this is just vertical right here. These guys were absolutely straight up and down, jumping, launching out. You'd think they were going to try to launch out a little further. Most of them weren't even clearing this table. They were trying to get back on the ground and get a drive.
Yeah, and the problem is if you try to get to here off of something like that, you might have to go 4 foot higher, and it's just not worth it.
It's not worth it. Out in the air, it's got it. So coming off of here, boom, into the finish line jump. I think Alex from Dirtworks was talking about maybe next year working on the track design, possibly tweaking the finish line jump to another location. He wasn't quite sure, but you can see there's 2 main lines here. If you see this, Derek, these are where everybody was going right here. Had a little whip contest. We had a little kind of goon ride air jump contest.
Too, a lot of times when these big ramps get rutted, you'll be like, why aren't the guys scrubbing? And it's because they can't really scrub when the ramp is rutted.
Yeah, pretty hard to scrub this when you're fighting a 8-inch. Actually, this is farther than the double slash what would be the normal triple over there. So this is the biggest jump on the track coming through here. So I'm sure Eli'd like to take this thing first, but again, it's going to be a fun event tomorrow. Love racing in Denver. It's just surprising we really haven't raced many times in the history AMA Supercross in Denver. Again, we talked about the McGrath one in '96, and then this will be the third one here at this time. And then, I mean, I came here in 2006, believe it or not. They had an AMA Championship Supermoto race in the parking lot, just on the other side over there, which was, it was kind of unique.
Yeah, and I think it's because we don't have a dome, and the weather is, you can't count on it really being good until at least sometime in April.
Yeah.
So that window gets pretty small with putting a race in here.
So how does Eli practice living in where you guys are outside of Durango? He spends just a lot of time in California, Florida now, and other places?
He spends some in Florida and some in, well, winter in Southern Cal. We go down there at 1st of December, because at my place, and I'm the same elevation as here, it's 5,300 feet.
Yeah.
But we're down southwest, it's a milder climate than up here. But about the end of November, we freeze and kind of stay frozen, so we got to get out of there. We go to SoCal, which works well for the first rounds, because we're out there anyway. We can work with the team if they're based out there for the most part. Right. And then come mid to late February, we usually head back home to Colorado, and by that time we can ride at my place again. Yeah. But like where Eli lives, he's 2,000 feet higher than me, and it's just, he's got 3 foot of snow, and I have good dirt at my house at that time. So
yeah, I know.
It's all about the elevation at that point.
Just whoever has the best dirt and the best weather. So, born in Michigan, grew up racing BMX. Get out to Durango, Colorado. Was that for the mountain biking career, to get trained at elevation and mountain biking trails? And is that why you?
Yeah, I originally went to Southern Cal for a few years as a BMX pro. Yeah. I was 16 years old, and that's when I got introduced into mountain biking, and I started mountain biking, and really loved it and did well at it, and that kind of led me to Durango, which was a great place to train. Right. So I moved there in '89.
So, and then you get picked up you rode for the 7-Eleven cycling team, which was based in Belgium, where I actually met some of the guys on the 7-Eleven when I was over in Europe. And then you also went Motorola team for a little while, didn't you have a little Motorola?
Just 1 year, yeah.
1 year for Motorola. Yeah. And then, so that being said, you're in Colorado and Eli's born, you start riding motorcycles, and then you realize training at elevation has to be a bit of an advantage to always, from training in cardiovascular.
Yeah, cardio-wise, it certainly is. It's just, it just helps you build a better cardio system. Yeah. But with moto, it's tricky because, like you'll see here, the motorcycle doesn't perform as well. Right. And even at home, Eli, there's certain things that he does, and the bike's just a little bit different. I mean, his practice bike, we give it a little more compression up there to get it a little more like a sea-level bike. So that's one adjustment we make. But when you come to a place like this, I mean, he rides in this every day. So when he hits the lanes, he knows what's going to happen. Versus a guy that's always at sea level. Right. But that being said, when you're at elevation, if you're doing power type training, weights or whatever, you'd be beneficial to be at sea level. Right. But since moto isn't, it's not really a pure cardio sport. It's not really a pure strength sport. It's a blend, and it's a mixture. And for us, Colorado's been home, and it works for us. And because we're in Southwest Colorado, it works for 9-10 months of the year. Right. It's a good spot, and we're away from. There's no distractions.
Zero distractions. Yeah. So we're coming off the finish line here, and the reason. So right off this one, normally you'd think you'd just head back over to the first corner here, but we're actually going to come right out where the first corner is. And this is almost like just a quick S-turn. Traditionally the last couple of weeks, we've seen tracks, they'll run a lot farther down the starting line here because of the design of the stadium. I think that Alex was mentioning how the end zones are very narrow on both ends. The 50-yard line's a little bit wider, but they can't have a curving rhythm lane. So they don't really have the luxury of going too far down on the starting line here, and they head right back into a quick right hand. So you got a left and a right, real quick combo here. A lot of jamming and pushing going on in that privateer race we saw. So this is going to be some interesting opportunities for making some passes. And you can see here, right here, Derek, you can see this part here got really hard, and you could tell the riders when they had any moisture on this, it was slippery. It's drying out now because we have some wind, but this part is going to be tight.
Yeah, that's like native Colorado soil there. We got a lot of sand and fluff put on top, but it's still down in there.
You got it. And then we've got here the outside line. This was more for the on over here. This obviously roll line. Come up over the back side of this right here. Check out this. So the guy's rolling This is the guys rolling. They're doing opening ceremonies, fireworks, testing. So that's a loud one. So right here, so if you're doing this, you're jumping on. If you're coming on the outside, you're clearing this and doubling in. So this is where it's coming right back to the first corner. Well, coming into the end right here, I was just gonna wait till the tractor got a little bit further ahead there, but coming in this corner right here, this is a complete lap. I think the lap times are probably gonna be in the maybe 40, I don't know, last year they had some qualifying in the 42s. The track went away, they ran in the mid 40s, but I'm thinking it's a little busier this year than last year. So what do you think, 44, 45s?
Yeah, but we're still talking about a lot of laps.
Yeah.
And a lot of laps typically leads to a rough racetrack. And with this being, if the stand kind of does stay towards the top, it is going to get rough.
Yeah.
And it's going to look like half of a motocross track out here by the time they're done tomorrow night.
Yeah, did you make any adjustments on the bike, on the suspension-wise?
Yeah, you'll have to just, you know, I'm actually surprised walking it, what it looks like how soft the top is. I know it's going to mix in, but yeah, you have to, sometimes you have to make adjustments, especially when Supercross tracks get rough. And a lot of times you can see it even during a race, like some guy will qualify fast. He'll rip in the heat race, and all of a sudden you're like, what happened to him in the main? And a lot of times the track changes. The setting that he was on isn't necessarily good, and you know, we really focus on our setting for the main. We're always thinking about the race that pays the points and pays the money. So, you know, sometimes, or maybe we'll go like, well, maybe we want to try this or that. We'll try it in the heat race. Maybe it wasn't the best, and then when in the main, we know at least we explored that option, and we're going to what we believe is the best for the main event.
And how long has Eli worked with Ricky Gilmore? He's Eli's suspension guy. He's followed him wherever he's gone pretty much, and it's been a long time. So I know they work very, very closely together. Do you guys take all those analytics into it before you make the decision? And again, the main event is the only one that pays the points, and it's the only one that works towards the championship. So, you know, I can completely understand that.
He's been with Ricky since 2013. We didn't have him for a while, and then we got him back. But the benefit really with Ricky is he's also a rider and a past rider, and he's a rider that understands chassis and suspension. So when Eli is talking to him about certain things, maybe it's on the track or on a jump, to him it's just not the engineering side. It's like he knows what he's talking about, how he wants the bike to feel, and then Ricky has the knowledge to apply that to the chassis setting, and there's not very many guys that can do that. And I think he can look and understand Eli at a level because they're just kind of on the same. It just happens once in a while. Sometimes the offensive coordinator and the quarterback they're just perfect.
They gel.
And you see it. And that's kind of how those guys are.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Well, I hope all you that have tuned in have enjoyed this. I know I've enjoyed it because not a lot of people get a one-on-one tight relationship and a nice conversation for this 30-plus minutes with John Tomac. And there's a lot behind the scene with what makes Eli Tomac such a great champion, and there's a lot of family support, and as you can see, John's very knowledgeable on the sport, man of sort of few words, but you know what, when he speaks, I think you should listen. So thank you very much for joining us on the Dunlop Motorcycle Tires Track Walk, and next week will be the final round of the 2023 Supercross season in Salt Lake City, so please tune in.